Give us a little feel for how your team is in regard to the travel part of it, right? Traveling's tough in wrestling. It's not just that you're traveling and doing one thing or another. It's that you got to make weight while you're doing that, right? And it takes people out of their rhythm. These first 3 matches, I don't think Iowa State's looked specifically real sharp. West Virginia has wrestled very well in the first 3 matches, so I don't know if that's an issue or not. It's hard to tell. We'll see where it up here at 49 with Hillegas and
Paniro
Johnson.
And this is another big-time freshman, by the way. And he's going to score a big-time takedown.
Well, Hillegas has obviously dyed his hair. And so it made him look different. I wasn't sure how he looked. Johnson, Erie Prep, good family friend Mike Hassey was his coach in high school. So somewhat familiar with that.
Picked up a point just there, Hillegas did, and good to see Sam Hillegas back, ranked 21st in his weight class, the 149, a Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania kid, went to North Hills High School. And Paniro Johnson, 10-3 on the season, a freshman who gray-shirted. I think he is technically, that makes him a true freshman. But Johnson also pretty familiar with that area, an Erie, PA native. He leads 2-1.
Well, and Hillegas returning from, headbutts, right? He got whacked in the head in that match against Oklahoma. And, I still wonder about that whole sequence. It was definitely a headbutt. I mean, look, this sport is tough, man. I mean, you got to be tough, and you're going to get smacked around, and you're going to collide and do all that. So 2 people shoot at the same time, you smack heads, that stuff happens. But that wasn't this situation. That was just run right into him and headbutt him. And I don't know why that's not a penalty, and I don't know why he wasn't DQ'd, to be honest with you, when Hillegas has to stop related to going into concussion protocols. That just, and aside from the team score, I care about that. It definitely changes the team score quite a bit. But in this era where we're supposed to be paying attention to particularly head injuries, I just don't see how that goes on without any mention or any kind of penalty or anything whatsoever in that sense. 2 years ago, if you tapped somebody in the forehead, they gave the other guy a penalty point. Like Johnson just did there, touch him in the forehead. They were calling that as a penalty point. This was a blatant headbutt, and I don't know. It's just not something that I'm.
Little activity here towards the end of this first, as Hillegas, who is a transfer from Virginia Tech, his first season with West Virginia University, scored a point just a few seconds ago. So it's 2-1 right now, and Iowa State has yet to win any of the first 3 bouts, but Johnson gives them about as good a chance, other than David Carr, as anyone.
Well, I mean, Johnson's explosive, an athletic kid, does a nice job, pops Hillegas up in the air, nice double leg, takes him back and takes him down with a couple seconds left in the period.
So we're going to actually see the headbutt from that match
right
against
there.
Oklahoma.
So he just smashed him right in the freaking head. I mean, what else would you call that?
Yeah, looks fairly cut and dry, and it certainly drew the ire of head coach Tim Flynn.
He lined him up and headbutted him. And so that was the first time. And so here's number 2.
And you can tell almost immediately that something was not right.
That one's a little less obvious. That was a little more like wrestling, but man, he definitely lined him up and smacked him the first time.
Big time escape there for Hillegas. They'll cut the lead in half. Again, Johnson had that huge takedown right at the end of the first.
Well, points at the end of the period are winners and losers, right? When you're the guy who scores at the end of the period, you're getting a chance to score without giving the other guy really an opportunity to counter that much. And so that extends into the period. And so instead of this being 2-2, it's 4-2.
Johnson will pick up another 2 there. He's looked explosive and powerful here early on.
Yeah, and Hillegas really hasn't done anything to threaten him one way or the other, right? I mean, Johnson stayed in pretty good position, and he's done a nice job of taking advantage of the opportunities he had when he seizes those openings. He goes after him pretty hard and pretty powerfully, right? Which is what you're trained to do. When you see it, go do it. Go through it 100%.
Another point there for Hillegas. Lead again cut in half, and we are under 60 seconds. Now lock.
So Johnson is really controlling the whole match, right? He's the one who's determining when the tie-ups are. Hillegas is trying to find him and scramble a little bit, and he's not really gotten into any sort of rhythm of his own offensively. Now, he's not necessarily known as a huge offensive guy on his feet. He's really much more known on the mat, but he's not had any answer. This is a problem here. There's a 2-point takedown. And he does a good job at bailing out, because he could have got cranked and turned pretty easy there.
It's his second takedown of this frame, and now starting to accrue the riding time as well, leading by 5. Johnson does not have a pin this year, does have 2 major decisions, and does not yet have a tech fall, as that will lead us to the buzzer. And take a look at this takedown here for Johnson. What do you think, Tony?
So look, he stays nice and low. He gets right on the knee, and he keeps attacking it, keeps going right after it, right? Nice job of doing that. And here's where he could have got Hillegas in a lot of problems. He goes over the head, and then basically tries to whip him over, and you see Hillegas bail out pretty fast. Now, my shoulders aren't flexible enough to be able to bail out like that. I would have still been in a lot of trouble, but Hillegas doing a much better job of that.
So 8-3 the score now as we enter the third frame, and a fresh 2 minutes on the clock. Johnson 3-2 on the season against ranked opponents, trying to pick up his 4th win. Has actually faced both the number 1 and number 2 wrestlers in his weight class. Lost to number 1, but beat number 2, Austin Gomez of Wisconsin.
You know, and he just does a nice job. He's compact. He just stays in good position. He's explosive, so you can't really sleep on him all that much. He does a nice job off the bottom, where a lot of the younger guys really struggle with that. He does a nice job of staying in good position, and that's the spot where Hillegas is usually much better from a wrestling standpoint, where his wheelhouse is. And he just does a nice job of not letting the leg in and finding his way out.
At this point, is the thought in Hillegas' head, do I have a chance at winning this thing, or do I need to stop this from a team points perspective from becoming a major decision?
There's still a minute. He's got to figure out how to score points, man. But that's just quick. I mean, he tried to snap him and sort of drag him a little bit, and he lost kind of where Johnson was.
And he gets the escape. All right, Johnson has the riding time right now, so if it ended right now, Johnson would have a major decision. And they're kind of locked in a stalemate here, and we have a whistle with 50 seconds remaining. They'll break apart. And from a neutral position, we'll start again. Keep an eye on that riding time. Might, at this point, could be the difference between a decision and a major decision with 40 seconds left. Johnson tries to enter, and again, stalemated. They break apart, no escape. 22 seconds left.
Well, Hillegas just hasn't had any kind of answer for Johnson at all, and Johnson's been able to pretty much score at will.
That first step Johnson seems to have when he goes for that takedown. Fast.
Quick and explosive, and powerfully built guy. And he uses it to his advantage, which is what you're supposed to do.
And he's going to get Iowa State on the board with a major decision. 14-4 when you add the riding time. Iowa State gets on the board. They lost the first 3, but they win that one. Paniro Johnson, the true freshman. We'll step aside. Iowa State and West Virginia, the Mountaineers on top. 10-4, you're watching the Big 12 now on ESPN+.